Good morning, everybody. I think we can start this masterclass of the Master in International Tourism and Hospitality. I am Manuela De Carlo, the director of the Master, and I'm happy to introduce this first masterclass on revenue management today and the future of the discipline. The issue is extremely relevant, especially in this moment of recovery from the pandemic, in this moment of great change in the tourism market, and also of exceptional acceleration in the use of technology, especially on the topic of performance improvement and profitability, management of profitability. We have the privilege to address this issue and to develop this topic with Damiano Zennaro. Damiano has gained an extensive experience on revenue management issues for more than 10 years, I think, as manager in the Intercontinental Group, and more recently as a consultant at Ideas. A leader in providing a solution, advanced solution for revenue management. Damiano is also the point of reference for our courses in revenue management in the Master in International Tourism and Hospitality. In the last year, we developed with him a specialization course on this topic, open also to professionals and managers in the sector. Just a few words to introduce the masterclass, and I leave the floor to Damiano to start the lesson. Thank you, Damiano.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you very much. Thank you, Manuela, and thank you, the Yoon, just to give me the opportunity to take you through some of the slides that you will see in a couple of minutes. So let me just start sharing my screen. Give me a second, and then we'll be ready just to start. If you can confirm that you see my presentations, that would be great, and at least I can start.
Yeah, we can see the presentation.
You can see it. Excellent. So, as Manuela said, I think the topic is pretty hot. So we're talking about revenue management, and it's really very relevant today, simply because what's happening today in the current market. So, and in the current conditions. I mean, don't forget the crisis that we just live in today. I think it's a big one, right? We know that, but the industry and the hospitality industry went through a lot of crises as well, and we're reborn all the time. So it's very optimistic. I think we see a bit the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still we're still into that, right? Especially in Europe. So having said that, as Manuela said, so my name is Damiano Zennaro. I'm almost 20 years in the hotel industry. You see probably from my white hair, but many of them, spent at the Intercontinental Hotels Group, so more than 17 years. And then I joined Ideas, which is a leader in revenue management softwares and revenue management innovations. I'm focusing on strategic revenue management and change management and team leadership. These are the focuses, for my whole career, if you wish. So even the 17 years that I spent with Intercontinental Hotels Group, there was several positions all around, system, educations, and revenue management. Now, you will see that the discipline evolved so much, but let's start from the beginning. And just to set up the scene, I just wanted to share with you some pictures, right? So, and this is the very first picture, and I don't know how many of you that are attending or just watching now know what is this. So, and I didn't know myself, right? So either. So this is the boat that actually won the first America's Cup. That was in 1851, so it's pretty long time ago, if you wish. But all of us probably recognize, right, the sailing boats. I mean, there's a long story around America's Cup, and why I'm saying that, simply because this year, as you might know, and it's a bit, local, if you wish, but Italy achieved the final of the America's Cup, for the second time, I believe, but we achieved the historical result as well, because we won 3 races at the end during the final. Now, we run with this boat, right? So this is the Luna Rossa. And as you might actually understand, there's a big difference between the schooner that you saw before, that won in 1851, and the sailboat that you see today, or that you just saw probably for the ones who are following sailings, or at least like sailing. So this is a completely different approach, as you can see. So it's not only the product. So you got these two huge foils, at the sides, that allow the boat to fly, basically. So that's why I say sail flying, because in fact, I mean, the friction with the water is no longer there. So it's basically flying above the sea waters, right? But it's not only the product that is completely different. What is really different is the skills of the people that are actually running, the sailing the boats. There are two teams, first of all, so right and left. And on top of that, the skills that they have are very, very different, not only from 1851, which is a pretty long time ago, but even from 10 years ago. So I just put the pictures of the first boat, which is a long time ago, I understand it, but not even 10 years ago, we're thinking, to fly above the waters. Now, why am I saying that? Well, especially the skills, not only the product, but the skills as well, is very relevant, for all of us. So if I just want to jump into the next slide, right? You see there, these are the sailors, right? So we are looking at, unfortunately, the truth is that we lost, right? So Italy didn't really achieve the cup, right? So it didn't win the cup, but they were beaten by the New Zealand group, the New Zealand boat, who did a fantastic race. We still achieved the historical, 3 races, won in the final, but in the end they won. And this is a really typical, very good, pictures, because you see sailors sitting around a table in front of a laptop, and on the back of this you got the pictures of the boats, and a lot of analysis, a lot of data there around. Now, why I'm saying that? Because this is really relevant for our industry. It's relevant for all our industry all around. So we're evolving very quickly. And this article that I really suggest to all of you, which is Flying Across the Sea, propelled by AI, and AI stands for artificial intelligence, I think that's really a typical example of how can you combine, how you can synergize, the human aspect together with the technology. So they won simply because they did it better, of course. So, and they probably had a fantastic technology analytics on the back. So they just invented an AI bot that actually can simulate all the situations. But still, what I just want to say here, and the message is the synergy between the human and the technology that allowed them just to win. So then you understand where I just want to go, probably. So we live in a data-driven world. I mean, that's very clear. We are overwhelmed by data everywhere. There is no scarcity of data at all. The question is more around what are the relevant data? What are the data that actually allows us, to create actionable insight, right? So it's not the quantity of data, but it's more the quality of data. So if we just, think and we reflect about big data, I think, this word, we saw this word probably on a daily basis, if you wish, right? So if we think about big data, data scientists, analytics, internet, social media, they're all, words that you see every day. So, and the point is, how do we manage it, right? So, and this is really very relevant for us for revenue management, because usually we try to understand as well first what happens around artificial intelligence. And I just give you only one slide, very quick and short and sweet. So it all started from deep learning. And why it's relevant to this? Because we have in Hotels world a lot of data as well. So deep learning is a specialization of machine learning, which can produce extremely accurate results, often used for classification and pattern recognition on unstructured data. So we have a lot of data from our PMS, we have a lot of data from our systems. How do we just find and try to find patterns, just to recognize what to do and trends? Now, next to the deep learning of machine learning, which is, the artificial intelligence techniques that gives computers the ability, in fact, to learn without being explicitly programmed to do so. So they're being very intelligent, right? So they're going to start being much more intelligent. So machine learning is what we're just dealing a lot today, especially for systems and data analytics. And of course, the umbrella there is the artificial intelligence, so which is any technique which enables computers to mimic human behavior. So I'm not going to stand too much here because we are concentrating very often that artificial intelligence is used as machine learning, and machine learning is used as artificial intelligence. They are two different things, but still we're talking about the same. So back into the sailing, they used a lot of artificial intelligence with machine learning just to win the cup. For the same for hotels, we should start using a lot of data as well to understand, how to react. Now, in the maturity scale, and for hotels, this is very relevant, we just see a different approach. And very often we ask hotels and, operators, where do you find yourself? Where are you in this scale? The first scale is very simple. You got the historical, you got the descriptive analytics, which is more around what happens. So it's looking into the past, and today is difficult because we know with the COVID-19, past data might actually be misleading because we are just facing a very difficult times, which is very unrelated to the historical data. So the next step should be, why did it happen? So for example, if something happened in the past and we just want to understand why it did happen, then we just go into the diagnostic analytics. So it's more around the performance data. Now, after that, if we just want to carry on, the next question we should ask ourselves is what will happen next? And this is very relevant for today. So the forecasting. So how can we adopt, predictive analytics to understand what will happen next? So it's really looking forward. So it's looking what's going to happen in the next months. Pretty short right now because the market is very volatile, but still, what will happen next? So next question will be, what's the best that can happen, basically? So you're really around the market intelligence. We are really about maximizing, and this is more around the prescriptive analytics. So this is a big point as well. So the steps are what happens, why did it happen, what will happen next, and what's the best that can happen. But the very last one is how to make it happen. So how to make it happen, that what you want that happens, how to make it happen. Here you just need to have some automated revenue management, and you just need to look into optimizing. Now in that scale, very often we're asking hotels and brands and companies, where are you in this path? You might actually still be on a BI, so on a business intelligence, which is more around what happens, or you might already be in a forecasting area, or even in a maximizing, which is absolutely great. So having said that, the question is, of course, and I'm sure you're asking yourself, so will technology replace, me in terms of revenue managers? Well, I wouldn't be here, of course, if it was the case, because the point is really depends. And this is the whole point of, going back into the sailing example of, the synergy between human and technology. Revenue management will not disappear. It will depend on how they adapt and how they will just look into the future and into the future of the discipline. So essentially what I'm trying to, explain very often is that revenue management started as a very, a guru of Excel, for example, if you want to. So using a technical skills as really a competitive advantage, if you wish. So it was all around collect and organize data. Of course, there was an analytical piece of it, right? So which is more around the analyzing the data. And of course, there was also a strategic element there, which is more around looking ahead, so looking forward. So these are still the basics, and they're still really very important for any revenue managers, right? So even though there are some new roles coming up like data scientists or data analytics, right? So data analysts, for example, there are still the basics, right, of revenue management. It is also true that with the evolution of the discipline, we really moved into something bigger, right? So we're more moving into, how to impact and influence our audience, for example. So we're asking skills that are more around influencer or communication, so being an excellent communicator, for example. The other, skills that we are just seeing emerging very much is the team builder. So involve others into what you're just doing, what you're just basically trying to share with your audience. And then as last, is really the leadership. So we see that one of the skills that is emerging so strong, it was before as well, to be honest. It's nothing new for the last year, but it's really emerging even stronger than before, which is, take the leadership. So revenue management is playing there a big role in this evolution. And then you can see that really the hard skills are still there, but there are other skills required today, which is more on the soft side. So having said that, if we just follow what is the path, the revenue journey that we just trying as well to explain, from a revenue management perspective, is really going from a revenue aspirations, right? Trying to transforming your revenue, getting revenue aware, so really recognizing improvements, moving into a revenue informed position, which is more influencing the organization or the hotel, because it might actually be for independent hotel as well. It's not only for brands. And then get into revenue confidence, right, which is empowering the cultures to be revenue innovative. Now, we saw that a lot is happening around the discipline, and this seems to be the path to reach, kind of the best of, or at least a very good position in terms of, managing and optimizing your revenues. So there is another element that plays a lot, and that's why the soft skills are in place, is really we entered already a era of convergence. Meaning that a lot of these commercial elements of a hotel or a brand or a small, group, so the sales, the traditional sales, the digital marketing, the revenue management, are really working together more and more than before. So silos have been broken, if you wish. And COVID-19, I think, forced as well just to break down these silos, right? So to break down this fact of every single department trying to achieve their own KPI, key performance indicator, or trying to achieve their goal. Actually, and if we're talking about a brand, small brand or independent hotels, you have one goal, which is just working better, right? Just probably trying to maximize your revenue or your profit, right? So having now these three elements working together is a very strong signal. And I think that revenue management there is in a very strong position as well, simply because usually revenue managers, if we look at the soft skills before as well, a combination of the hard skills and soft skills, usually revenue managers, they do have the data. They understand, where they want to go, and they have the situation, if you wish, under control, or at least got the data supporting their reasoning. And that's the point around really the key elements of revenue management, just in a nutshell, because we are not here for that, right? So revenue management in a nutshell is selling the right product. So think about, all the different room types that you might actually have inside a hotel to the right customer. So think about the market segmentation, think about how many people will probably buy your room types or different room types at the right time. So meaning that when do you want to sell it or buy it? Is it weekend? Is it long stay? Is probably 3 nights, 2 nights, 1 night, depending on the room type, depending on the market segmentation, at the right price, which is probably the most difficult exercise here. So how do you determine the right price for, the length of stay requested, for the market segmentation you're looking at, for the room type that you just want to sell, and through the right channel. And the right channel is really something that has been added in the last years, simply because the cost of distribution are pretty high. So if you want to optimize revenue and profit as well, we need to understand as well how to sell the right product to the right customer through the right time and the right price through the right channel. So all this to try to balance, in a hotel world, what is your occupancy? So, how many rooms did you occupy in a certain night? And of course, the average daily rate, which is the rate that you're charging for the day. So of course, having a very heavy ADR might actually influence your occupancy. So you might have a very high ADR and a very low occupancy, or the opposite. You might have a very high occupancy and very low ADR. So try to combine the two indexes, the two elements, the two metrics, right? It will give us the right balance, which is the RevPAR, which is the revenue per available room. Now, this is still a traditional KPI. So during, the courses and during all courses, you will see also innovative KPIs, but these are still the, traditional KPIs that determines very often how a hotel is performing. So essentially, the balance between occupancy and ADR is what you try just to achieve. So there are some myths really that I want to share with you around revenue management, which needs to be, covered if you wish. The first one is that discounting is an effective way of increasing revenue, for example, that artificial intelligence is superior to human intelligence. We saw this before. Or that maybe revenue dollars are equal, regardless of the distribution channel they came through. Or the right price to charge for a room night is based on our cost, on ROI expectations. So there are quite a lot of myths here, because when we think about revenue management, we tend to think about a very small, area, but it's a much more complex and much more, much bigger, if you wish. So, for example, discounting, we learn from any, crisis before today's, and this year crisis, that it doesn't necessarily stimulate demand. So very often when there is not a culture of revenue management in place, we tend to see that, we tend to think that by decreasing our price or our rates, you will stimulate demand, but there's nothing wronger than that, if you wish. So especially now, there is no demand probably, so you will not stimulate demand by decreasing your price. Artificial intelligence is there to help, but it's just together with the human, right? So the cost of distribution is really, going up every single year. So you need to be very careful when you distribute your rooms, right? And then, of course, the cost of your room or the price of your room shouldn't be based on your cost or on your ROI expectations, so return on investment, but more around the value. So what is the value that you're presenting, to your room? And again, revenue manager is not working alone. He's not, with his own, spreadsheet all around or his own data, but he's just, part of a bigger team. And there's the last one, of course, which is pretty much very relevant, which is COVID-19 shows that traditional RMN and RMS are no longer needed. So revenue management and revenue management system. There's nothing wrong with there too, because it is true that a lot of things changed, but the basics are all the same. So you're still trying to influence and understand customer behavior in the future. So as well in a forecasting mode. And of course, the data that we are collecting now, they will be much relevant, next year. So there will always be a data collection, activity that really allows us to look back as well, probably in 2 years' time or a year's time, and understanding how, the business evolved. So having said that, I'm just trying to, kind of clarify where we stand there. So why is revenue management even more important, during these times of uncertainty? Well, you see there, so and I just, mentioned to you even before. So is historical data now useless, or are forecasts inaccurate? So we understand that you probably heard around it is impossible to forecast now. Well, it is probably true in a way that is not easy to forecast like it was a couple of years ago. But again, you still need to understand what's happening, right? So a lot of questions more around, do you still need revenue management if there is no revenue? Or what if there is no demand, to revenue manage? Well, the facts are, you see there on the right side, is that revenue management will be vital and is vital for recovery. So how quick you recover, it will depend on how much information you will be able to collect and understand. So you still need to take, informed decisions, with confidence all the time. So we tend to see in the hospitality industry a lot of feelings, emotions, which is absolutely fine, simply because we're working with people as well, and hospitality is great because of that too. But there is another side that really shows as well what's really happening. And very often we tend not to, focus on that. So you still need just to take, decision based on data. So you still need to operate efficiently. Even if you have 10% occupancy or 20% occupancy, you still need to operate efficiently. And you still need to maintain competitive advantage. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about competitive set today. So the competitive set is a hot topic as well, simply because the competitive set might have changed a lot. So if we think about how we were competing before in a normal situation, let's say pre-COVID, we understand that today it might actually be completely different. So some of the hotels that were competitors, they might not be any longer today. And the opposite is true as well. So some of the hotels that they were not competitors in the past might actually be competitors today, because they are fishing, they are looking for the same market segmentation that you were probably looking at as well. So that's really a key element there. So you still need to look at your competition, and when you look at your competition, you need to understand as well who are your competitors, the real competitors. And again, you still need to optimize price in any market circumstances. So it doesn't really matter if you have a 10% occupancy or a 50% or a 90% occupancy. You still need to find the right and optimize the price that you just want to sell, and it's public. So as you can see, there are theories there are buzzwords around, around revenue management and revenue managers. The facts are, it will be vital for recovery. So the ones who are gonna be able to adapt and to adjust and to have the data, they will recover much quicker, than others. So having said that, the main focus really you can see as a key objective from one side is just trying to push and stimulate automation, not because the machine will take over, but simply because it will help you in taking informed decisions and taking decisions based on data. And that's the second point. So the data-driven decision come from a process of automation, right? And honestly, today technology as well is much more affordable than before, right? So you need to rely as well on machines or anything that helps you in driving data-driven decisions, right? There is a team enablement element here, and we saw that before when we were discussing even from the sailors, from the America's Cup. But the convergence between digital marketing, marketeers, and salespeople and revenue management is there. So the way of enable teams in working together and breaking down the silos is a key objective going forwards. And then, of course, last but not least, is focus on profits. So we covered that quickly when we were discussing about cost of distribution. But of course, the COVID-19 pushed and forced a lot of people to think about profit even more than before. So there is nothing new into that too. Again, it's like talking about total revenue management, for example. How do we, revenue manage F&B, for example, food and beverage? How do we revenue manage a spa, for example, or golf, right? So activities. Everything that is an ancillary revenue is great, but there is a lot of focus now on profits, more and more on profits, simply because demand is less. So every single reservation is gold, if you wish, and we're really looking into the bottom line and not only on the top line. So these are the four elements that we see as a key objective going forward into the discipline. And just to make sure that we just get it, this is a bit of a status quo of revenue management. So the status quo in general was more around spending a lot of time in data gathering and data preparation. So, for example, you see there, we are estimated that 40% of the time of a traditional status quo revenue managers was spent in data gathering. 50% of the time was around data preparations, and only 10% was more around analysis and strategy. So essentially what's happening here, you're spending 90% of your time to try to get the data and prepare the data. So when you come down into actions or into strategy, you're already kind of overwhelmed. You're just already tired. So now just to try to get this data, check the data, understanding the data reliable, prepare the data in some nice, way of presenting or graphs or whatever it is. And then when it comes down into really take actions and analysis and data and just draft the strategy, then you're only 10% of your time and you're probably tired as well. So this is a very tactical way of, facing revenue management, and it's heavy on an efficiency, as you can see there. So where we see the future, and is already happening, if you wish, is more around the strategic, so around the strategic side of the discipline. So it's more around the revenue data science. So that's the future state. I put there future, but honestly, we're already there. So how did it actually switch? It's switching from being very tactical, so spending a lot of time data gathering, data preparation, into really focusing on analysis and strategy. So you see there 80% in the future state of revenue managers is spent just to analyze and set strategies. So that's why we see that moving very fast. If you are, of course, conscious about the automations, conscious about the data-driven decision, and conscious about team enablement that we saw that before. So the convergence of the three main commercial area, right? So digital marketing, sales, and of course, revenue management, without forgetting distribution and e-commerce as well. So the 80% of that time is spent into strategic actions, actionable insight, just to look into the strategy, into the future. So this is really heavy on productivity, and you can see there. So that's really the difference between a traditional, revenue management and a future revenue management. And don't forget all this simply because we are building, a very guest-centric revenue strategy. So there is no way that, like in the past, we're just closed into our hotels and looking into our own small world. A lot happened there, and especially with the data that we are available. So when we're thinking about a guest-centric revenue strategy, is really covering the all steps, of the journey that the guest does. From the search, right? So from the very initial search, trying to understand where he wants to go, where he wants to stay, how long was he want to stay, and so forth, through the on-site offers, which is a pre-arrival, step, into the arrival step, which is the most important one, if you wish. And then it's the upgrade, and it's the relax, then it's the spa, there's the dine, there's the shop, which is the mid-trip when he is really in the hotel, which is internal. But you have also external activities that you can see there, which might be a show, the conference, the reception, right? So we need to follow, let's say, the journey of the guest in all these phases, because even when he left, right? So you will probably post a review, and there will probably be an opportunity to, offer something, in the future as well. So because it's a guest-centered revenue strategy, you understand that revenue management in general is very involved in all these steps and can actually get involved in all these steps. So if we think about the silos again, a revenue manager should actually take a leadership, in this process. And as a cherry on the cake, of course, don't forget revenue managers are indeed at the center of a very complex ecosystem very often. So when we think about revenue management only in terms of, rooms, or in terms of, our own property or brands, don't forget there's a lot of data that you can collect and can influence, let's say, in pricing, for example, your rooms. So we're thinking about you as an ecosystem, and I'm looking about rate shopping system, for example. So how do we rate shop, hotels and our competitors in the future to see if our pricing is aligned or not? I'm thinking about reputation management, for example. So how can we monetize the fact that operations at the hotel level are very, very strong and have a fantastic reputation management? How can we monetize it? How can we capitalize on that? Revenue managers do have a voice in that. Sales and catering systems. So I'm thinking about the F&B, the food and beverage piece. So for some hotels, the F&B is very important. So there is revenue management for F&B, for food and beverage. So a revenue manager of a hotel should actually have an eye on that too, right? And then you got the channel manager, which is more around the distribution. So how do you distribute your rooms, right, in a way that has the same price, for example? Or how do you distribute in a way that your costs are under control? And then you got the market demand intelligence as well, which is, for example, how the others are doing. So how can I measure myself, right? If you was thinking about the RevPAR before, how can I measure myself against my competitors, right? This is the market demand intelligence. So as you can see, it's a very fascinating to me, area, because it really gets a lot of elements together. In getting all these elements together, a revenue manager very often is the person at the center of all this data and strategies, in order just to optimize your revenue going forward and your profit as well. So I think I probably explained enough around, revenue management in big terms as an overall approach. So revenue management is, as I said, at the center of a big evolution right now. So the change is there all the time, and we know that. So, and don't forget that in the change, the ones who survive is the one that will actually adapt, as fast as possible, as quicker as possible. So it's not the biggest or the smallest. It's really around who can adapt and adjust to change the quick and the fastest as possible. So I think that, for revenue managers, it's a big opportunity today, to grasp, the essence of the change, which is more around the chance, just to evolve even further. So I think, that's the essence of, revenue management. This is the future of the discipline going forward. I'm very delighted just to, to contribute, to any courses that actually allow us to understand the basics and the future of the revenue management. So this was really it for today. So I don't know if there are any questions, or anyone wants to, ask questions, or there are any questions coming in. So please feel free just to ask. It's trying to get in 30 minutes a pretty complex topic, but I'm here for any question you might actually have. So I'm coming back into my screen so you can see me too. Here we go. So I don't know if there is any, possibility or chance to ask questions. If not, then I think that's it. So Yeah, so let's have a look if there are any questions coming in, or I just leave another couple of minutes or 1 minute or more if there are any questions. Otherwise, I think we can close the masterclass for today.
Yes, thank you very much, Damiano. If there aren't any questions, for now you can either write us via email directly to the MythMaster or to Damiano if you have more specific questions on revenue management.
Perfect. Well, then, thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you soon in one of the course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.